Hello, this is Farrell Yoakum with Discipline That Reaches and Teaches, and I have another lesson today that I'd like to bring to teachers, my most favorite people in the world. And it has to do, of course, with classroom management. We like to call it bringing order into the classroom. But it's a basic skill that we teach whenever we present to teachers, present training. But it's nice sometimes to get back to the basics, maybe especially this time of the year, to get back to what we know works. And so the premise that we're talking about today is say what you mean and mean what you say. Now, that sounds simple, and I'm sure you've heard it before. It was a basic premise that we always use each year. But I'm going to mention something that happened many years ago to me that kind of points that out about how that works. I had just been named as a principal at a middle school, my first principalship, and I was a little concerned about that. The school was a school having lots of issues with discipline and a lot of respect that was lost in the community because of the way the school was run and had been running for several years. And there was a lot of turnover with teachers because they didn't feel supported. So I had a big job, and I was hoping I was going from assistant to principal and I would take care of it. So I showed up there at the school early and in the year, and it was still summer, and the summer school was just starting. And one of the assistant principals had been named the summer school principal, and I was in the auditorium area, just kind of in the front where students come in to that school. And a student entered into the school, and he was wearing a cap and was wearing shorts. And I said, Jim, I was just reading the dress code, and it said that students may not wear caps at school, and shorts are not permitted to be worn by students either. And so I was just wondering about this student wearing those. And he said, well, yeah, but it's summer school, and we kind of relax things a little bit. I said, oh, really? And he said, yeah. And I said, is it printed someplace? He said, no, but it's just well known that we allow them a little bit more latitude. I found out later they also let them chew gum. So I said, well, Jim, that might explain some of the problems here. We say one thing, but we mean another. And it doesn't say in the handbook you can't wear a cap at school except during summer. It says you can't wear caps at school. And so I said, I think I'm beginning to see some of the problems. So another student entered and was wearing a cap. And I walked up to this student and said, hi, I'm Mr. Yoakum. What's your name? And he told me his name. I shook his hand. And I said, we have a rule here that you can't wear caps at school. He looked very quizzical to me. And he said, really? And I said, yes. So I need for you to take your cap off, please, and just give it to me. And he said, well, what are you going to do with it? And I said, well, I'm just going to take it from you for right now, but I need you to take it off and give it to me. And he said, well, other students are wearing a cap. There's one right there. There was another student who was coming in. He was wearing a cap. And I said, well, I'll deal with that student right now. I'm dealing with you, and you can't wear caps at school. So please, just take it off and give it to me. He said, am I going to get it back? And I said, I'm sure. Just take your cap off and give it to me. So he reluctantly took his cap off and handed it to me, still looking very quizzical. And I just said, thank you for giving me your cap. Now, I'm going to give it back to you, and I want you to put it in your backpack, and don't wear it until you leave the school. Then you can put it on after you've left the building, not inside the building. Once you've left the building, you can wear the cap. Is that okay? You understand what I'm saying? Yes, sir. That's fine. And he put his cap in his backpack and went on to class. So we went around to classrooms and explained that students cannot wear caps. I mentioned to all of them that we were putting out a little notice that this was the only day they're going to get to wear shorts. They wouldn't be allowed to wear shorts anymore. I know that it's done more frequently these days, but that was back at a time and in a district where they didn't allow them to wear shorts to school. And so it's just a little bit of an idea that students want to know what's clear. There's power in clarity, in being clear. And when you say one thing and do another, it's not clear. It's ambiguous. And so if a teacher in a classroom has rules posted, let's say a very common rule is you're not allowed to speak until you raise your hand, you're called upon. But I see many classrooms where students are just blurting things out. And that makes a mockery of that rule. And so if you say one thing and do another, then the students are confused. It's ambiguous. I don't have to follow this rule, but how about rule number 2? Do I have to follow that one? And so we've got to make sure we're clear. If it's not a rule you're going to follow, that's fine, but just don't post it. If that's a rule you're not going to follow, that's fine, but don't print it in the handbook. Be clear. And so that's my lesson for today. Make sure that you say what you mean and you mean what you say. This is Farrell Yoakum with Discipline That Reaches and Teaches, and see you next time.